Sophia Richie, the daughter of Lionel Richie, just got married to Elliot Grainge, and they had this big, fancy, super expensive wedding, and everyone's talking about it. So today I want to go through and look at their wedding photos because there's a ton of them posted on this Vogue article, and I'm just going to go through this article with you guys and walk through the images, talk about what makes them good, what makes them maybe not so good, and how you can take this as an example of what to do or what not to do when planning the photos for your wedding. For those who don't know me, my name is Delaney. I'm a wedding photographer and videographer based in Toronto, Ontario, and if you're interested in any of my work, you can find my Instagram down below. Also, if you end up enjoying this video, it doesn't hurt to hit the like button and maybe subscribe. All right, let's get into it. Okay, Sophia Richie and Elliot Grainge's star-studded wedding in the south of France. Scroll through the article, I'm not too concerned about that. And let's get into the photos. So I don't know the whole story here because I'm just reading the Vogue article, but the photos here are credited to two different photographers. There's Norman and Blake, which is one photography duo, and then the other one is German Larkin. Now, I'm not really sure why they have two separate wedding photographers. Maybe they were working together. Maybe they just hired two different photographers for some reason. I don't know, they're famous, so maybe that means you get more photographers. But generally speaking, if you hire someone for your wedding, even if they subcontract a second photographer, they usually still work under the one company's name. This first photo is really nice. I mean, the landscape and just the area they had the wedding is absolutely beautiful. It's a really wide shot, which you don't usually see too many of in weddings, but especially if you have a really nice venue for your wedding, you might as well shoot wide to just capture all that. It is a little overexposed in the water here, but they're shooting into the sun, so you gotta give them some slack there. This photo is kind of weird. It's like crooked, which sometimes is done on purpose, but in this case looks like maybe this was an accident. The photographer took the photo by accident while fidgeting with their camera. It kind of looks like a weird one-off photo. Just the framing and everything is kind of weird. I'm not sure why they included that one. This is almost a nice photo until you realize Elliot here is half mid-blink, or maybe he's just squinting because he's staring into the sun. And Sophia here is not quite looking at the camera, kind of looking a little bit off to the side. It's also shot at a very high aperture. You can tell because the background is very much in focus, which is fine, but generally when you have a busier background like this image, you maybe want to blur it a little bit more with a lower aperture. Personally, I find this background to be a tad bit distracting. These bridal shots in what I'm assuming is the bridal suite are stunning. The room is amazing, the lighting is really nice, of course the dress is amazing and probably super expensive. This is a really nice example of a photo that looks like a candid but is actually posed. You can tell it's posed mainly because of how perfectly the train is put out here. They definitely planned that, but it looks very natural. I like that one. Same with this one, very nice, natural. It looks like they're maybe using natural window light here, which looks really nice. And this one as well, it looks like they maybe didn't quite get the train laid out as nicely in this photo. You can kind of see it's a little crumpled in the corner here, but overall, very nice photos here. This is an issue I think comes from a lot of media training and a lot of being a model and posing as a model for like they look really good here, but the problem is that this is their wedding day. It's supposed to be this beautiful, emotional, exciting day, and there's just zero expression on their face in the post photos. And maybe that's what they wanted, and there's nothing wrong with that if that is what they want, but to me it just seems kind of unnatural to have this just blank, expressionless blue steel looking straight into the camera. Like same with this one, they're just like looking at each other like, hey, how's it going? I don't know. I think this just comes from them being kind of famous and Sophia working as a model and being used to like giving a model face. You'll see in a bit some of the candids are much nicer. They show a lot more expression, but when they're posing for photos, they're very somber. Here's a nice photo of Lionel Richie looking kind of uncomfortable leaning on this fireplace mantle. What is his hand doing here? Is he grabbing his jacket, or I guess he's grabbing his jacket. His hand kind of just looks like it's floating there. Again, very like straight face, which is, again, maybe that's what they wanted. This is an exception because they're famous and they're used to being in front of a camera. For a lot of regular non-famous people, they're not usually used to being in front of the camera, which means when they look like this in photos, it's usually just because they're nervous or uncomfortable. I doubt this is the case with these photos, but part of the photographer's job is to bring out a little bit of emotion, make you feel a little more comfortable in front of the camera, because nobody's naturally comfortable in front of the camera. So if you're posing like this, you might look a little bit awkward. So hopefully when you're working with your photographer, when I shoot weddings, I try to make my couple feel a little more comfortable so that they feel a little more natural showing these emotions in the post photos. But I don't know, maybe that's just not what they wanted for this. Whole family, super serious family we got here. See, there we go. We got like a nice goofy one. I mean, Sophia's barely, she's got a little smile. Richie is very much into this one though. See, this is obviously a candid, and look how much more natural they look. This is like their genuine happy expressions, not the forced kind of model face. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about that because they're all like that. This is nice. This train must have been kind of ridiculous to drag around. I heard, so apparently she had 3 different wedding dresses. There was like the before the wedding dress, the actual ceremony dress, and then like, I guess a cocktail dress or something. I'm not sure exactly. All of them, I'm sure, ridiculously expensive. This is nice. It's important to get a nice mix of candids and post photos in the wedding. You're really kind of doing everything as a wedding photographer. You're capturing these in the moment things that happen and then they're gone. And then you're also capturing these really nice post portraits and trying to do everything as quickly as possible. It can be a little bit hectic, but especially with a little bit of practice and some planning, it's not a problem at all. This is a really nice post photo here. A few distractions in the background, but overall still really nice. And you got everyone walking out of the building, the procession. This is a stunning photo. This is one of those things that when people say, oh, do I need a second shooter for my wedding? Do I need a second photographer? Or can just one person do it? One person can do it, but stuff like this is made so much easier if you have a second shooter. Now, I don't know that this is with a second shooter. They did have multiple photographers on the day, but they had someone down on the ground shooting the procession walking through. And then I doubt that they ran up the stairs and then stood out on the balcony for this shot. They could have, but most likely they have a second photographer and the photographer on the ground stepped out of the shot. But it's stuff like this where you don't necessarily think about it, but you can get these crazy different angles. Like this is a beautiful shot, but it may not have been possible if it was just one photographer trying to run back and forth and capture everything. So if you're booking your wedding and you're thinking, do I want a second photographer? Do I want to pay for that extra person to be here? Just remember this photo. This is a really nice photo, but these flower pots in the corners, I don't know what they're doing there because look at how insane these flowers look here and look how nice everything looks. And then you just have these standalone single small flower pots. Like they look really ugly compared to everything else in this image. I don't know why they left those there. If this were my photo, I would have clone stamped that out. I don't know. Okay, so I think in this case, I'm just reading the caption here. I think in this case, this was actually one photographer going down and taking the photos on the ground and then taking the photos up top, because this caption reads, the walk down the aisle was 7.5 minutes long. Because what happened is they walked down, they stopped probably on the stairs, got the shots, the photographer ran up, got some from up top, then ran back down, maybe got some more. So if you want a shot like this at your wedding and you don't want to be awkwardly standing in the middle of the aisle for 7.5 minutes, second shooter maybe. I find that very surprising because obviously they can afford a second shooter. They had multiple photographers here. I'm very surprised that they didn't just have one photographer standing up top, one photographer down below. They could have got that in like a minute or two instead of 7. Some really nice photos on the altar. These expressions are always so nice and candid because they just show a lot of emotion. Outdoor weddings can be tricky in terms of lighting. It looks like they're shooting like afternoonish, maybe like 3-4 o'clock, because the sun is starting to go down just a little bit, but it's not quite golden hour. So you still get this really harsh lighting, but they have this nice sort of I don't even know what you call this, gazebo cover thing that is providing them with some nice shadows to soften the light on their faces. Sunglasses at the wedding altar, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I mean, it is very stylish, but it just kind of blocks out any emotion in the eyes in any of the photos. Like, look at this. She's not wearing anything on her face. You get this nice clear shot of her face. You can see the emotion behind the eyes. You can see the sparkle in the catch lights. And here, even though he's smiling and showing some emotion, you're not really getting that full connection with him because his glasses are blocking his eyes. So even if it's bright outside, just maybe not. Maybe don't wear sunglasses. See, look, they're walking down the aisle. They're married. It's a candid photo, and they look very happy now when it's not posed. This is a really nice shot. I love the energy of like, woo, holding their hands up in the air together. I'm wondering, the walk down took 7.5 minutes. I'm wondering how long it took back. I'm guessing it was much faster because there were so many different angles of the walk down the aisle, but walking back here, there are just a couple photos and they're shot very wide, which looks like they were probably walking backwards kind of fast while taking the photos. And then they got some really nice post photos in front of the hotel. I think these are some of the best shots from this set because they have this beautiful building here. You can see the whole building. You can see these insane flowers. You get the full wedding dress. You just get everything elegant and nice about this wedding captured in this one image. When shooting symmetrical photos like this with buildings in the background and having symmetry being a focal point, like stuff on either side is exactly the same, it bothers me a little bit that this photo is slightly tilted and it's not exactly head on. This one's a little better. Still not quite perfectly head on, but it still looks really nice. I think these are definitely the best shots from this set for sure. Some solo bride shots, definitely important. It's good to get those couple shots. Most of the time you set aside for your couple shots should be couple shots, but definitely get a couple with just the bride in there because specifically the bride, you can get some of the groom too, but generally speaking, the groom is just wearing, a good old-fashioned tux, and the bride usually has some really special dress that they picked out that means a lot, and they probably look really beautiful with their makeup and their hair all done up. Whereas guys are like, oh, throw a comb in, you know, throw on the jacket, we're good to go. So definitely make sure you get some shots of just the bride. Here's that bouquet toss behind the back, and then shots of the wedding party. Interestingly, they did the wedding party shots after. Most of the weddings I shoot, they do it beforehand, mostly just because of scheduling and timing. They have a little bit of time between the getting ready and the ceremony to do this kind of stuff. Because you have like getting ready in the morning around noon, and then you have like usually a space between 1 to 3 o'clock where you've all gotten ready and the ceremony starts at like 3 or 4. So that's usually where you can fit in time to do family photos and wedding party photos. But if you wait till after the ceremony, like 5 o'clock, and you can squeeze in these photos before the reception, then you can have a much nicer lighting if you want to shoot outside, because you're a lot closer to golden hour and you're going to have a nice golden kind of light instead of direct sunlight overhead. If you do your family photos at like noon or like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, you're not going to have very nice lighting. You're going to get the raccoon eyes. So if you can schedule it in for golden hour, I'd recommend that if that's really important to you. But also some people are like, okay, the ceremony is over, we just want to start dinner and partying and speeches, and that's totally cool too. But as a photographer, I really appreciate when bride and grooms are like, okay, we're gonna set aside this chunk of time during golden hour just for photos, because that's ideal. All the standard family photos, and then did they take a golf cart to the reception? Kind of looks like it. Reception photos, these are nice. Lots of direct flash. Interestingly, it doesn't look like they had any other flash or any other kind of light setup. It looks like they're just rocking the one flash on camera. It looks diffused because it doesn't look too harsh. But you can see there's light coming straight at them, which is definitely from the camera, and nothing else going on in the background. And then here are some really nice shots. They had all these fireworks go out over the water, and this is really cool here. This looks like this is a long exposure. The light trails aren't super long, so it's maybe like half a second or a 1 second exposure, but you shoot with the flash. So as you can see, Sophia is sharp here because the flash hit her and froze her in time, and the lights in the background are still moving a little bit. So you get this cool, like, you capture the emotion and the energy of it in the moment, but you still get all the details sharp. It's a really cool effect. So overall, these photos are really nice. The nice part about them, in my opinion, is that they're not falling into specific trends. They are a little bit in some cases in certain photos, but for the most part, it's a very timeless kind of style. It's, for instance, the way some people edit their photos right now for weddings is based on trends and what people are doing on Instagram. And that's totally okay, but you're gonna have these photos forever. And it just means that in 20, 30 years, you're gonna look back on these photos and potentially think, I don't really like how these look anymore. And maybe you'll do that anyways, but ideally if they're shot and edited in a way that is gonna stand the test of time, I think that's a little bit nicer. But it also makes it a little easier to shoot really nice photos when the venue is just absolutely amazing. But yeah, that's my review of this wedding. If you wanna see more stuff like this, let me know in the comments, because I don't normally do this type of video, but I would love to do some more if you guys are interested. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more. If you want to see stuff like my camera gear recommendations or my Instagram or TikTok, that stuff is linked down below. Also down below, you can find out my website with my portfolio and my contact form if you're interested in booking me for your wedding. So thank you guys for watching. I will catch you in the next one.